Well, don't do it. So, I'll tell you something, right? So, I've had some experience in this area, and I remember one occasion in particular when I was sued by two activists because I had accidentally used the wrong pronouns. And it was actually an accident. I just did a video on a particular case and referred to one of the people in that case. And this person, I thought, well, it was a biological woman. And so I said she, and then they took offense and lodged an action against me. And eventually we did the compulsory conciliation conference, because you have to do that before proceeding to legal action. And so we met together, and it was via teleconference. And at the start, the mediator, the Human Rights Commissioner, said, we're going to respect each other's pronouns in this call, and clarified what everyone's pronouns were. She assumed mine. And it was interesting because it was completely irrelevant, because we never used pronouns. You don't use pronouns when you're talking to someone. Like if I'm talking to Nathan, I'm not saying to Nathan, he. I'm saying Nathan, you. Or if I'm talking to Darren about Nathan, I just say Nathan. Like it doesn't come up. And so my point is, you don't have to use pronouns in everyday conversation. And therefore, it becomes very easy to simply not use pronouns that reflect a lie. You can't tell a lie. And people will then say, well, okay, but surely it's not very sensitive, or it's alienating people, or it's not loving to say to them, to use pronouns or to refuse to use pronouns. All I'd say is, the best thing you can do to love anybody is to lead them to the truth that they need to hear, and not the lie that they want to hear. That's really the whole message of the gospel, is to point people to the truth they need to hear and embrace, not the lies that are going to take them to hell. I heard the testimony once of a pornographic actor, and he said his great error was that he surrounded himself with people who cheered him on as he went to hell. That's what he said. He said, I needed someone to tell me the truth. And when you hear testimonies of ex-transgender people, that is what they will say. Don't use pronouns, because the whole thing depends on a community and a world that props up the lie, because actually something deep inside is screaming that everything's wrong. And when you put your finger on it, they will be angry at you. But actually it's for their good. And I'll give you a biblical example and then stop talking. And I'm going to mention this in my talk tonight. When Jesus encountered the rich young ruler in Luke's gospel, or it's in Mark's gospel, I think this detail comes out. It says Jesus, the rich young ruler, is the guy who comes up and says, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And it says Jesus, looking at him, loved him. And you think to yourself, oh, what's Jesus going to do out of love for this rich young man? Surely he's going to, draw alongside and speak words of peace and, all this kind of stuff. Or maybe it'll be a transgender person. Surely he's going to, start by, endearing himself. No. Actually, he says to Jesus, I've kept all the commandments since my youth. And Jesus says to him, well, then go and sell all that you have and give to the poor. Then you'll have treasure in heaven. And of course, what Jesus has just done in one line is point out to him that he hasn't even kept the first commandment. Because the first commandment is, you shall have no other gods before me. And it says of that young man that he was sorrowful and he went away. Jesus said something that was hard for him to hear. And Jesus allowed him to walk away sad. And Jesus was loving him in the sense that he was acting towards him for his good. And his good is not determined by his feelings. His good is not determined by the lie he wants to hear. His good is not determined by failing to point him to God's good for him. And so it's up to us to discern what is God's good for people and to point them to it. And if you're telling them lies about something so fundamental as that, you're failing, and that is not love. You're cheering them on as they go to hell.